Hey, awesome people. Welcome back. Mr. C here with you, and we are continuing our fraction series. Make sure if you learn anything new, click the like, click the subscribe button. Join us as we continue making math understandable and challenging. Today's video is going to be about decomposing a fraction into a sum of fractions with the same denominator in more than one way, recording each decomposition by an equation. There's a lot of words there, but stick with us. I'm going to work us through this. It is really something that you're going to really understand once we do an example together. All right. Make sure, if you haven't had a chance, check out the description below. We have all of our 4th grade fractions videos in a playlist. We also have our 3rd grade fractions videos and our 2nd grade fractions videos. All of those playlists are in the description below. Check those out if you haven't had a chance yet, or if you just need a little bit of a refresher, check those out. This video here, we are going to be taking a fraction and breaking it up, decomposing it into a sum of fractions. This is going to be really important. Make sure you follow along, rewatch it if you need to, check out our other videos. But with all that being said, let's get started with this skill. All right, ladies and gentlemen, you already know what I'm going to say before we even get started. Make sure you have a growth mindset, okay? A growth mindset means that you are okay with the challenge. You're going to use your mistakes. You're going to find your mistakes and use them to help you get better. You're not going to give up whenever you struggle. You're going to persevere. Stick through it. Do not give up, okay? Growth mindset. You just can't do it yet, and yet is the key word. So, as you can see, I have the fraction 3/4 on the screen here. And what we're going to be doing today is something that I think we've mentioned before, but I want to point out this word one more time. So this word we're talking about, you're going to hear me say a lot today, is decomposing. Okay? And what decomposing means that you are going to break something apart. Okay? So break apart. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be taking some fractions and we're going to decompose, we're going to break them apart into other fractions, and we're going to write an equation for all of that, okay? So it's a lot of big words here, but once you kind of see this first example, you're going to kind of have a good idea of what I'm talking about, okay? So let me erase this here, get it out of our way, and then let's talk about our very first problem. So we've got the fraction 3/4. You see that on the screen. What we're going to do to this fraction is we are going to break it apart, okay? And to do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a picture, okay? Because you know me, I like drawing pictures. It helps me to be able to see what I am doing, okay? So I'm going to draw a picture here. And in this picture, I'm going to show this fraction 3/4 on this model, okay, on our fraction model. So let me divide it into 4 equal sections. There's 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, so what we're trying to do is we're trying to take this fraction here and break it apart into other fractions that will all add up to this fraction here. Okay, so what we're doing is we're going to be writing an equation. Let me get rid of that and put it in the middle here. We're going to be writing an addition equation, and in this problem here, we're going to try to figure out what 2 fractions can we write that would equal 3/4. Okay, so we're trying to equal 3/4, and what we've done is we've drawn this fraction model. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show 3/4 on this fraction model. So let me color that in. Let's go with a purple color. So I'm going to color in 3/4. There's 1. There's 2. And get to that one a little bit more. There we go. There is 3. So I've got 1, 2, 3 out of 4 colored in. So here's my question to you. we are trying to figure out which two fractions, for this one here, this example, what two fractions would add together to give us 3/4. So how could we break this fraction up to give us two different fractions that when they were added together would give us 3/4? Now watch what I'm about to do here, okay? What I'm about to do is I'm going to change the color of this section here. Okay, I'm going to change the color of it. I'm going to color it in blue. Okay, here's my question to you. How much is this section here? What would you say this section is here? You would probably say that this section here is 1/4. Is that right? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 out of 4 is blue. Okay. Now, what about how many sections are colored in purple? Well, I see another 4th, and I see another 4th. So how much is shaded in here in purple? 2/4, right? Got to write it kind of small there, but 2/4. So, my question is, if this blue section was 1/4 that we created, and this purple section was 2/4 that we created, does anybody know how many are blue and purple? How many did we color in blue and purple? If we were to add those together, how many do we have? Well, if you think back to our videos from last week, what we were doing last week is we were taking two fractions and we were adding them together, but we were showing it in a fraction model. We're doing the same thing here, ladies and gentlemen. We're doing it backwards. Instead of me giving you two fractions, all right, I'm giving you the answer. And you're choosing the fractions. You're creating the fractions. You're taking the fraction model and telling me what fractions could add together to give us our answer. So let's go back to this one here. We were trying to figure out which two fractions, what are two fractions we could add together to give us 3/4. Does anybody know? Okay, let me help you out here. How many sections are blue? 1 out of 4, 1/4. How many sections are purple? 2 out of 4. What is 1/4 plus 2/4? Ding, ding, ding. It's right here. 3/4. That would be the answer. Remember, when we add fractions, we only add the numerators. We do not add the denominators. Okay? If you don't remember that, watch our video from last week. 1 plus 2 gives us 3. Do not add the denominators, and you get the answer of 3/4. So I've got another question for you. Were these two fractions that we chose, 1/4 and 2/4, were those the only fractions in this model that would have added up to 3/4? Let me ask that again. These two fractions that we chose 1/4 and we chose 2/4. Is there another option? Is there another way? Is there another fraction, another order that we could have added in to give us 3/4? Yeah, there is, ladies and gentlemen. There is. There's several other ways we could have done it. Let me show you a couple of the other ones. Another way we could have done it is we could have done 1/4 plus 1/4 plus 1/4. 1 plus 1 plus 1 is 3. Don't add the denominators. That gives you 4. There's another option right there. Some of you may have even tried it on your own, and you may have used this down here. And if you did, that's awesome. If you did it the way I did it, that's awesome. Remember, Math is super cool because we all can do math a little bit differently. We all can see math a little bit differently and get the same answer. Here's a perfect example. And what you're going to see in all of these problems that we do, there is going to be other ways to solve it correctly. All right? What I want you to do, if you really want to challenge yourself, is try to find the ways that I don't show you. Okay, in this one here, I showed you 1/4 plus 2/4. Okay, see if there's other ways that I did not show you. If you can do that, I promise you're going to master this really, really quickly. Okay, so let's try another example. So here we are with our second example here. We've got the fraction 2/3 up here on the screen. Feel free to pause me if you want to give this one a shot. I'm going to go ahead and draw my fraction model on the screen. I'm going to make this one a little bit shorter. So what we're going to do is we're going to take 2/3, and our goal is to figure out how can we add some fractions to give us 2/3. And again, I'm going to show you the way that I'm kind of thinking. Try some on your own, all right? See if there's ways that I'm not going to show you in this example. So I'm trying to take 2/3, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to figure out which fractions could add up to give me 2/3. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my fraction model and divide it into 3 equal pieces. There's 1, 2, and 3. And I'm going to go ahead and color in really whichever kind of way that I'm thinking in my head to show you. I'm just going to color it incorrectly, and then we can decide what's what. So I'm going to color in 2/3. So I'm going to color in 2 sections, this teal color. There's 1, and there is 2. So there's 2/3. Now, let's say for this example here, let's say I erase this section, okay? And this time, first off, let me label how much is in here. So this here would represent 1/3. Now let's change our color. Let's go with a bluish, or excuse me, orange color. Let's color in another section because we're trying to get 2/3 is what we're trying to get. So here's another third. Now take a look here. We were trying to get 2/3. That's the fraction we're trying to add up to. We're trying to equal 2/3 with our fraction model. We're taking some fractions and decomposing. Remember, that's the really big word. We're decomposing this fraction into sums of fractions. So take a look here. Does 1/3 plus 1/3 give you 2/3? Well, what does the fraction model show you? Here's a third, here's a third. How many thirds is that total? Well, if you look at it, from here to here, that's a third, that's a third, that's a total of 2/3, right? So let's put this down here. Let's write down these fractions and let's double check using an equation. Let's use this addition equation to see if this is correct. So if we add the numerators, 1 plus 1, that gives us 2, so that looks good. And remember, we do not add the denominators, it stays the same. So 1/3 plus 1/3 gives you 2/3, ladies and gentlemen. 1/3 plus 1/3 gives you 2/3. In my example here, I broke it up into thirds. That's how I decompose it. I decompose 2/3 into 1/3 and another third, added them together, that gave me 2/3. Now pause. Was there another way I could have decomposed 2/3? Can you think of another way I could have decomposed 2/3? Some of you probably thought to yourself the first time I did this, whenever I colored it in this tealish color, you probably thought to yourself, hold on a second, Mr. C. I got kind of a quick and easy way here. Some of you may have said to yourself, what about 0/3 plus 2/3, Mr. C? What is 0/3 plus 2/3? Well, let's look. 0 plus 2 gives us 2. We do not add the denominators. They stay the same. And looky there, ladies and gentlemen. There was another way you could have decomposed it. Yeah, there's another way. There's two different ways. I will say this, though. This way down here, your teacher's probably not going to give you a lot of credit for it, okay? They may think that at first it's really clever, it's really good. Always kind of do it as another example, but make sure you have one that looks like this, where you're actually decomposing it into fractions that have a numerator, okay? That's just a little tip for you. I know your teachers may get on to you a little bit there, okay? So, two different ways you could have done it. You may have thought of another way possibly. I don't know. Some of you are crazy advanced at this stuff, but those are the two ways I just wanted to show you on this one. Take a look at this. See if you made a mistake anywhere. Where are you getting confused? What doesn't make sense? Look for your mistakes. Where are you making it at? Use that information to help you. Okay? Do not give up if you're struggling. Try another one with me. Well, I've got our last one on the screen here for this video, and it's going to be a bigger one, okay? Kind of giving us a challenge here. So I'm giving you 7/10, okay? And again, I'm going to draw a model. Some of you may not have to draw a model at this point. You may be getting kind of comfortable with it, and that's totally cool. I like to show a model. It helps me. So I'm going to draw a model, and what we're trying to do in this one is we're trying to decompose 7/10. Okay, trying to decompose 7/10. And I'm going to challenge myself on this one. I'm actually going to see if I can come up with 3 fractions. Okay, I want to see if I can decompose 7/10 into 3 different fractions to give me 7/10. Okay, I'm going to really challenge myself here. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my fraction model and divide it into 10 equal pieces. So let me see how I do here. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Dang, that's not terrible. Those are some crooked lines, but y'all are always very kind to me, and I always appreciate it. All right, so what I'm going to do, first things first, is I'm going to color this all in. I'm going to change. Let's go with this pink color. So I need 7/10 colored in. There's 1, there's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and there is 7. Okay, so what I'm trying to do in this one, I'm trying to challenge myself. I'm trying to decompose the 7/10 into 3 different fractions. Okay, so let's see what we can do here. Okay, let's see what we can do here. I'm going to leave a couple of these pink. I'm going to leave, let's say, 2 of them pink. So this is 1/10. Whoops, changed the pencil there. Here's 1/10. That's really small. Sorry about that, guys. There's a 1/10. So from here to here is 2/10. Okay. So my first fraction I'm going to use is going to be 2/10. Now, let's see what I can do. Let me think. Let's color in some more of these because I'm trying to get to 7/10. I'm trying to decompose 7/10 into 3 different fractions. So, there's 1/10. There's a 1/10. There's a 1/10. There's a 1/10. How many is that? Let me see. That's 1/10. That's, whoops, another 1/10, another 1/10, and another 1/10. How many greens do I have, y'all? Let's see. From here to here, that's 1/10, 2/10, 3/10, 4/10. Okay. So I've got 4/10 here. I've got 2/10 here. Let me write down 4/10. Okay, let's see how many tenths we're at so far. Because remember, we're trying to decompose 7/10. We're trying to break it apart. So that's 1/10, 2/10, 3/10, 4/10, 5/10, 6/10. How many more tenths do I need? Again, 1/10, 2/10, 3/10, 4/10, 5/10, 6/10. I need 7/10. So how many more do I need? Well, I need one more, I believe. Let's go with a purple color here. Let's color in one more. Label it 1/10. Write it above here. So this is 1/10. Let me write it in our equation. And let's see in our model first if this is correct. So we were decomposing 7/10. Let's see, here's 1/10, 2/10, 3/10, 4/10, 5/10, 6/10, 7/10. Okay, the model looks good. Now let's look at our math equation. Let's look at our addition problem here. 2/10 plus 4/10 plus 1/10, does it equal 7/10? Well, let's look at the numerators. 2 plus 4 plus 1. But before I do that, I do want to point out something else real quick, okay? Before I do that. These denominators are all what number? They're all the number 10. And remember from our last video, I told you your denominators must be the same if you are going to add fractions, okay? If these denominators weren't the same, we would have another step to do. Okay, so I want to point that out. Make sure you watch our video from last week because that was really important. So our denominators are all the same number, so that means we can add our numerators. Okay, so 2 plus 4 is 6. 6 plus 1 is 7. We do not add the denominators. 2/10 plus 4/10 plus 1/10 gives you 7/10. All right, there's an answer. Did you get another way? Did any of you figure out another model that we could have done? Okay, one of them right off the top of my head would have been 5/10 plus 2/10. 5 plus 2 is 7. Don't add the denominators, and that would give you 7/10. That's just 2 examples right there. Some of you probably can come up with several more, and that is awesome. Challenge yourself. If you can do it one way, say to yourself, is there another way for me to decompose this fraction? And go for it. Okay, it's really important that you can see this. If you can see this here, it really helps you understand what it means when we add fractions. Okay, that's why we do this. It's not just because I like to see a bunch of colors. Okay, it's nice coloring. You know I like to do it. But the reason we're doing this is I want you to be able to see how we are adding a fraction. A fraction is a part of the same whole. Okay, a proper fraction is all part of the same whole. 7/10 is part of one whole. 2/10 is part of that same whole. 4/10 the same whole. 1/10 the same whole. When we add all those fractions up, we decompose this answer into multiple fractions. And notice, you can do it in several different ways. Okay? Take a look and see where you're making your mistakes at, anything you're confused on, something that doesn't make sense. Rewatch it, give it another shot. Once you feel kind of comfortable or you're ready for a challenge, make sure in the description below is our practice problems video. Check that out and do a few more problems with us. All right. Make sure if you learned anything new today, click that like and subscribe button. Join us as we continue making math understandable and challenging. That's all I have for you today, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. C, out.